welcome to our YouTube channel, Admitted Advice for College Admissions and Testing. And I'm joined by several of my colleagues from coast to coast. We've got Chris out in San Diego, California. We've got Jessica in New Jersey. Brennan, remind me where you're at?
Columbus, Ohio.
Columbus, Ohio, somewhere in the middle, and I'm in the Southwest in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
We cover it all. We cover it all.
Yes, we do, don't we? So we're trying to cover a fair amount today on the subject of the common application and the process involved in that. So we've got some of our in-house experts to talk to you about that today. So, well, who would like to make some opening comments? And let's start maybe in a broad general view. What are we talking about when we talk about college common application? Sorry.
Well, I'll start. Typically, what we tell our kids, especially juniors that are rising seniors, right, is the key. The summer between junior and senior year for these folks is really, really, really crucial. So what happens? What's the common application all about? Well, according to their website, over 1,000 colleges in the US accept the common application. So it's a portal, commonapp.org or .com.
.org. Yep.
.org. Your student logs in and creates a profile, and this is the way that he or she applies to over 1,000 colleges. But what I tell all the parents and kids, and they don't realize this, August 1st is Common Application Day, when that portal opens up and goes live for everybody to log in. But the key is every year, the supplemental essay prompts change. So they need to go on and look at all those essay prompts and know what they are, so that that's where they're going to start to gear their writing. And that's really important.
So 1,000 colleges, that's a lot of colleges, right? But what if the college I'm applying to isn't on their list?
Then they usually typically have their own application.
Okay,
right?
So we go direct to the college.
You go directly to the college and you get the application off of the college admissions, typically the website. But that's why it takes research. And I tell these juniors, rising seniors, starting in junior year, you need to start to do your research and create a spreadsheet of your colleges and write down what type of application do they accept. Do they accept their own application, or do they have the common application? And what type of admissions do they have? But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother conversation. But so, yeah, it's really important.
And that's a good point to raise too, because the University of California system and several of the Ivy League colleges and some other private colleges have announced in the last 18 months or so, they will be transitioning away from the Common App. I think they've postponed it just because of COVID and such, but stay informed. Your high school counselor is one source of information. Certainly the college websites, as was mentioned a moment ago, but you do want to make sure you're dealing with as current of information as possible, so you don't fill out the wrong app.
Okay, so it's still a good first stop, so to speak, to go to commonapplication.org and find out what schools are on that list, right? Make sure they are on that list or are not, and then take the appropriate steps thereafter. Okay, so you've mentioned, rising juniors and seniors, Jessica. Brendan, you've had some experience with Common App. What would you say that a junior needs to know versus a senior, or what steps do they need to take?
Well, there'll be at different stages of testing. For instance, standardized testing, the ACT or SAT, they may have taken one or the other. They may not have taken either. So juniors may not have a couple of those things, but they really can already start. A lot of this starts with gathering the materials that they're going to need. So the application is the actual execution, but gathering the information can sometimes take a little bit of time as well. So they need to make sure that they know how to get and have access to their high school transcript. So each school is going to be a little bit different as far as their process. You need to know where that is. You want to make sure that you're tracking anything as far as activities, work, family responsibilities. You want to make sure you have a good picture of that. obviously test scores, if those are going to be part of the equation. And then any kind of academic honors, achievements. So if they don't have those in the junior, going into their junior year, they want to look for opportunities to be involved and to, to get some of those things that they can basically build their academic resume, which is really what's going on here. You're going to upload it. It's kind of like the Indeed of college application. You put all of your information in there, all your references and recommendations and all your pertinent details. And then you just, with a click of a couple of buttons, you can put that information in the hands of whatever schools that you want. So juniors, I think, are starting to think a little bit further ahead about, taking the ACT or SAT, getting that in there, getting other academic achievements, awards, things like that they can become involved. Seniors are, they should already have accumulated a lot of that and just be gathering that information so that they're ready to input that.
So is the Common App site, is it a kind of like a holding site for all this information that they're accumulating? And then at some point they actually submit it?
You register on the Common App site. And then you can start putting some of that, you can put that information in. And then when you get to the point of the application, like Jessica said, I believe it's August 1st of their senior year, that's really when they could put on the full court press as far as writing their essay, getting all of that inputted. But yeah, they can register on there. I think both of my kids had that they were registered for that in their sophomore or junior year.
Mm-hmm.
I need to add a few things there.
Sure.
I'm working with a family, I have a little enclave of families in Alabama, because we can tutor in any state where there's not a tutor doctor office. And we've had referrals down there, and it's really interesting what's going on in the different states. What we're used to up here sounds like it's a little different than Ohio, is a little different than Alabama. So it's really important for you all as parents to know what's going on in your state. What I see in Alabama is really interesting. This student that we're working with, I'm literally advising him pretty much every step of the way. And he didn't know, and one thing that is really important is letters of recommendation. He didn't know to go to his top teachers and a coach, because he's being recruited, and get a letter of recommendation by the end of junior year. That's what we typically tell everybody. Ask early, because they're going to be bombarded with people asking for letters of students asking. Ask early and send an email, like usually we say, because our schools get out at the end of June, May, send an email to two teachers that know you well as a person. And if you're going into sports or being recruited, your coach as well. That's really important to get it all, in there early. But the thing that happens in New York and the New York Northeast area is, and this is another thing I tell families, your guidance counselor, your kid's guidance counselor is a super important person, and especially up in this area, because our kids don't submit their own transcripts. The schools do.
Yeah.
So if our high school doesn't know where that kid is going and hasn't put it into Naviance or whatever that portal is, I've heard situations where kids have applied and the school never gets their transcript because the guidance counselor doesn't send it out. So that's something that goes on up here. I know the guidance counselor send the transcript. So these are all these little nuances and details that they don't necessarily tell you. That's why I say to the kids, you have to get in and have your junior meeting with your guidance counselor. You have to tell them what's going on and what you're interested in and what schools you put into your Naviance portal and what you're looking at, so that they can be a partner with you in this whole process.
And that's a really good point.
Jessica,
I wanted to add just the one thing, and thank you, Jessica, for raising it, the Naviance. A lot of people are saying, what's that? I have no idea. There are a lot of school districts and a lot of private schools that actually pay for this to happen. It's a tool. It's an online portal. It's spelled Naviance. You just go to naviance.com. What it is, it's a sort of a bi-directional portal. On the one hand, it's big data. It's all the colleges that are in there. They have virtual college tours. lots of information on there that you could also find on the college's websites, but it's all centralized in this one location. Then what happens is, as the student, and many times the student will be given username and password access in the 9th grade, and right, of course, that gets lost. And then I will have a consultation meeting with a family, and they, the parents have never heard of it, in their junior or even senior year. And so all of a sudden they look at the child, and then next thing you know, he's like shrinking down in the chair. Well, I think I go. So we try to give a heads up anytime we do a high school consultation, ask them, are you talking with your counselor? Just as Jessica said, very excellent advice. To what degree are you doing that? And it also serves as a proxy. The student can put information in there, and could be, medal photos of medals, of awards from sports, different things, that sorts of information. But what's happening is the student has a portfolio. Then what happens, all that information is there. So then the colleges are coming out and say they're looking for a set of students with 3.7 or above GPAs that have this profile, involved in 2 sports, So they're going through there and they're farming that data to see what students sort of fit that profile, that they can offer letters of invitation if they're going to be in that area, like an alumni recruiter or a college fair coming to your city. And then some students will be invited to like a pre-party or whatnot, or to come meet them at that event. So Naviance, if you've never heard of it, then right after hearing this video, please politely contact your student and ask if they've been given a username or password. If not, then the next day, or send an email off to the child's counselor at school and just say you might have misplaced the username access, but get that information, start populating it. That is the great sort of repository where you can put all this information, and then it'll be right there at the fingertips of the high school counselor, and they can make the magic happen, as Jessica said.
Great.
But Jessica, the one other note that I would make there is on their website that you can create an account on the Common App a few months before you're applying to schools, or even a few years before you're applying to schools. So, the sooner the better is usually our the mantra here at Tutor Doctor. So that's good to know about.
Well, I want to thank the 3 of you for making this possible today. It was informative and helpful. And as I'm reviewing in my mind the things that we've discussed, 2 common themes that really stand out for me here. And one is, be familiar with commanapp.org, go there and start early, right? Start accumulating this information that you're going to want the colleges to have about you. Start early. You can't start too early. Secondly, the thing I'm hearing about is communication. And that is, communicate with your school advisor and get other folks involved that can help you on this journey as well. And sometimes a third party out there is a great neutral voice to get in on this conversation. And to that end, I want to be able to direct all of our listeners to Tutor Doctor. We're all over the country here. So you'll see down below the ways that you can contact us locally. We've got an 800 number, that's 800-488-8677, and we'll get you connected to your local Tutor Doctor office. Thanks so much for joining us, guys, and we'll look forward to next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Byron. Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Jessica.